Well, with Maya now rediscovering herself, it is now finally time to end the love triangle once and for all. Hey guys, coming up for Girl Meets World Season 3, Episode 8, Girl Meets Ski Lodge Part 1. You guys are probably wondering how the hell I watched this episode. This episode is on YouTube, leaked in very bad quality, and I wasn't gonna watch it, but I'm like, you know what, I might as well, because this episode is one that I think we were all really looking forward to. It's one that I knew no matter what happened, it's gonna cause some sort of uproar, and right off the bat, I really just wanted to check it out, see how it was, and especially since it was part 1, I heard there was a huge twist happening this episode, and Michael Jacobs even said that throws a huge twist into the whole, triangle twist, triangle storyline that's been going on, and I was really wondering what was going to happen here, and I have to say that I got a much different episode than I thought I was going to get. Now, let me just say, this was not at all a bad episode. I don't think this was a bad episode. But this episode did not need to be 2 parts. I don't even know why they chose this episode to be split into 2 parts, because not a ton of stuff happened this episode. I mean, stuff happened definitely, but really not a lot happened when thinking about, this being a part 1, part 2 episode. I mean, the past part 1, part 2 episodes they've done, a lot has happened. Think about it. A lot went down in Girl Meets High School. Definitely a lot went down there. And then Girl Meets Texas, yeah, there wasn't a ton going on there, but at the very end we had that amazing cliffhanger. This didn't really have much of one, but let's just get in this episode because I do want to talk about overall what I liked about it, what I really am looking forward to moving forward. Basically, we start off this episode, and Corey is talking all about nature to the class and how nature takes its course, and he starts talking about all the love that's going on. We find out that Yogi and Darby are together. They now go by Yobi now, we find out. But the biggest part about this is the triangle. He wants to end this triangle, he's tired of it going on, and he wants to do every he can to put an end to it. And he comes up with this idea that the way to end it is basically where Corey and Topanga almost ended, which of course is Ski Lodge. Now, let me just say, this is a ridiculous reason for going on this field trip, and the one thing I'll give this episode that is probably the most unrealistic episode of Girl Meets World we've had, that's not Girl Meets World of Terror, because those episodes I don't count as, canon episodes. This is the most canon Girl Meets World episode we've had that's unrealistic, because we're basically supposed to believe that Corey's going to take his class on a field trip to end a ship war, is basically why he's taking them on a field trip, is to end a love triangle, and it really is ridiculous. Now, I do get his reasoning behind why he wants to go to the ski lodge, but basically, they're talking about how they're going to end this and that there's nothing really going on, and Maya talks, and basically Corey reminds Maya that Lucas isn't the only boy she's ever loved. Josh comes into class, and Maya's now kind of freaking out. He's saying that he's going to be one of the chaperones as well as Topanga, but, you can tell right away she still definitely does like him. The feelings are definitely still there for Josh, and I'm glad they brought Josh back, because originally Girl Meets New Year was supposed to be the end of this. Unfortunately, they really had to continue it on their own, and really the reason this is all stalled out is not the writer's fault. They've had to work around it. Uriah Shelton got into a very bad, I believe, skiing accident, and because of him getting into that ski accident, he could not film the show, obviously. It was really bad. He was in the hospital for a while, he had a cast, and this episode required him to be there. So that I understood why he was there. I thought it was a good way to start things off. I definitely didn't like that. But then for the rest of the episode, we go to the lodge, and let's just get into that. Now, there are a lot of parallels to the Boy Meets World storyline when they went to the ski lodge. Now, let me just tell you guys, I don't exactly remember the reason they went to the ski lodge in Boy Meets World, because, to be honest with you, it's not the most interesting storyline that Boy Meets World ever did. It was very repetitive. It was very much just there to throw a wrench into Corey and Topanga's relationship. I thought they did some good stuff here. I definitely think they utilized it very well. And just like Corey got hurt in that episode, which I do remember very well, Riley ends up falling off the bus and ends up hurting her ankle. So Riley basically has to stay inside the whole time, and I did like seeing that. I like seeing that Riley is basically forced to stay inside, and she can't really do much of anything, but basically, the big part of this episode is the triangle and everything that's going on there is that they are destined to put an end to this triangle. Riley especially. Riley saying, look, everything, Maya's now back. We need to turn things, we need to fix this triangle. And you can tell that Maya and Lucas don't necessarily want to, mainly because Lucas wants this to be a group decision. And Riley even brings up the fact that Lucas did decide, but he talks about how, look, I decided, but I don't want my decision to just automatically put an end to this. He wants this to be a group decision, just like Maya side, and you can tell they definitely want to keep stalling this out. That I thought was intentional. I did like seeing that. I thought that definitely is very interesting. Because as we've seen, Maya and Lucas really haven't taken as much thought. Well, Lucas definitely has, but Maya especially hasn't. I mean, after the change she's been through, and I think now, again, remember, Maya's trying to figure out what she exactly likes about Lucas and what it is that she likes about him and everything that's going on there. So I thought that definitely was very interesting what we got there. But anyway, later in the episode, we see everyone comes back from the ski lodge, which it was great to see Smackle and Zay back. I was very happy to see them, and Smackle is back to flirting with every guy we see. I mean, the second she sees Josh, she's flirting with him. A lot of people are saying they're trying to break up Smackle and Farkle. I don't think that's the case at all. I think Smackle's just a bit of a flirt. Any guy she sees, she flirts with, and that's just really who she is. And I think it's honestly kind of a funny character choice, but she's flirting with Josh, obviously, because she thinks he's really attractive. And then we find out a little bit later that there was almost a skiing accident with Farkle and Maya, where they were they were skiing basically, and basically Maya ended up saving Farkle, and basically Lucas ended up saving Smackle because Smackle begged him to, which I was very funny. I definitely enjoyed seeing that. So we find out that happened and everything, but then we really get to the big stuff in this episode after all that happened, because like I said, not a ton was going on there. I did like the throwback to the ski lodge when, Corey and Topanga walk in, Topanga sees the old lady, says Lauren did not age well, because again, as Riley said, they don't talk about the ski lodge. Like, it's just something they don't talk about, it's something they don't bring up. It's like a forbidden word, because that was almost the end of Corey and Topanga. Had that been the end, Riley would not be there. There'd be no Girl Meets World, obviously. They would have broken up, and we would never have seen Girl Meets World. The show would never seen the light of day. So I thought that was kind of funny the way they did that, and it's not really, like I said, it's not really the best time in Boy Meets World history when they did the ski lodge, so I can understand why they did that. I thought that definitely was very funny. I like the parallels there. But then we really start to get into this more once we see once it hits night, and then when they all really start to talk, which let's get into that. So like I said, they're ready to put an end to this triangle. Riley and Maya at this point, they want a decision. They want Lucas to just tell them what's going on, and they want him to basically say who he decided. But before he can, Josh calls for a movie night, and he has, I believe one of the movies was Skyfall. You could see he had Skyfall in his hands, and then Riley wants to watch like a romantic movie. And I thought this was kind of interesting, the way we saw that Maya wanted like a James Bond type movie, and Riley wanted a romantic movie. But then they basically decided to talk about their lives and talk about them possibly being together. And everyone sits down to listen to them talk about, which I thought was really unrealistic for Girl Meets World standards. It was kind of fun. I like Josh saying that, hey, your lives are so much more interesting than what's going on in the movie. I thought that was funny, but in real life, it'd be kind of humiliating. I mean, you're trying to have a relationship about a very serious subject, and everyone's just sitting around watching. I think it definitely was a bit embarrassing. But then we get to the real stuff where we see they each imagine their lives, and Maya's and Lucas is a James Bond movie, and honestly, I thought it was a lot of fun to watch. I definitely did enjoy this, and I think they did this very well. Basically, Maya imagines that she is called Da Bomb, while Lucas is called Huckleberry Bond, which I thought was pretty funny. And the only thing, and basically these two, they love each other, but the only thing keeping them together is the purple cat known as Riley. And I did love seeing, again, Smackle flirting with Lucas, and her being like, what, I'm in this with you too. I thought that was definitely very funny. I really did enjoy that. And then Maya's comment to Josh of, what, you're 3 years older than me in this too. I thought that definitely was really funny. A lot of really good stuff there. They did some really good breaking the fourth wall stuff here that I really did enjoy. But basically what ends up happening is we see Riley ends up being the purple cat. Now, Riley does interrupt this because she says there's no way that this would actually happen. This is not how it would be if their life was a James Bond movie. Riley would not be the villain. But she decides to and I kind of like how they manipulate into each other's thoughts. Thought that was kind of funny. But Riley basically decides that she's going to be, as the purple cat, she has a bomb, and the bomb is going to basically kill everyone and basically start a new world, and that's basically what she decides to do. We see the bomb goes off, and that's basically how Maya's whole dream sequence ends. Now, it was kind of cool to see them in like this Bond-esque world. They didn't really do much with the concept other than the whole thing with their relation, but that was really the focus of this. It was Maya and Lucas's relationship, and I think they did that pretty well. The way they showed that, the way they show, I think, how spontaneous they are. And Lucas even says in this episode that he doesn't appreciate when Maya and him are teasing each other. He doesn't really enjoy it as much as we thought he did. You know, he doesn't really like it because that's not who Maya really, it's not because that's not who Maya Maya really is because he knows they can have a serious conversation. And her saying her every 5 seconds, as much as he does enjoy that, he knows that she really does like, that she really does like him. And he doesn't appreciate when she says her every 5 seconds. So we basically do get into that with Maya. Then we get to Riley's thing with Lucas, which I thought was actually a lot more interesting than Maya's. Because then we jump into Riley's fantasy with Lucas, and her fantasy, I think, is a lot more unrealistic and ridiculous than Maya's ever was. Maya's was like a James Bond movie. Hers is like this over-the-top romance movie where everyone's in love and everyone's finding love. I thought that definitely was very interesting that we saw that here, but basically everyone's found love, and her and Lucas, they immediately are reconnecting and everything. I loved, probably the funniest line in this episode is when those two get away from each other, and he says, "I missed you," and she's like, that was a terrible 20 seconds. I thought that was definitely very funny. But then Maya and Josh come in to basically tell them that everyone is gonna die, and Riley and Lucas are gonna be the only humans left on Earth, and that's exactly what happens. Everyone just drops dead, and Riley and Lucas are left. And basically, Riley ends up coming up with some terminal illness, and Maya ends up cutting the cord and killing her. But basically, let's get into the more ridiculous, even though this was ridiculous, like I said, the basic aspect of this is that once Lucas makes a decision, everything is going to change and nothing will ever be the same. And they've talked about this before, and this has been a subject they've touched upon, but this also isn't the first time that, the Girl Meets World, Boy Meets World universe did this. Boy Meets World did an episode very similar to this called The Psychotic Episode. That entire episode is a dream sequence from Corey of him imagining how different the world is going to be when him and Topanga get married. And I will say, I thought that episode was a lot more necessary than this was. That episode I thought was a lot more better constructed because that entire episode was a dream sequence. This was just two dream sequences, and it was kind of strange, but I do get that the point of this is showing that no matter what happens, things are not going to be the same after Lucas makes this decision. And let me just say right off the bat that I don't think they took this as seriously as they should. I think they should have honestly taken this a little bit more seriously. I think they would have put a little more care into this, then I would have liked it a lot more, and I just don't think they took this as seriously as they should. I think they could have taken this in a more serious direction of Lucas realizing that, the reason he doesn't make a decision is because he knows things are going to change. He doesn't want things to change. I've said it before. We haven't really had a whole fight between Riley and Maya over this before. Like, we kind of have, but it's just been a little bit awkward. We haven't had a full-on fight, and I feel like that is where we're headed in part 2, is that there's going to be a fight between these two at some point. And basically, we see at the end of the episode, neither of them ends up making a decision because Topanga sends them all to bed, and they really talk about how does Corey have a point with nature and everything, and what's going on there, and Corey talks about how, what is really going on, who's really in charge of all this, and I love when Topanga takes charge. Even when Topanga is an adult, she's still in charge. Thought that was very funny. Also, I love the fact that Corey sent them there on couples weekend, basically to get them to end this triangle. I thought that definitely was a very funny way to do that. I definitely really did enjoy that. But basically what ends up happening is, I love seeing that little sexual innuendo where Yogi was about to go into Darby's room, and Josh took him and said, "It's a good thing I'm here." I thought that definitely was very funny. Definitely really enjoyed that. But basically, we see they all go to bed. Maya stays with Riley for a while, and, Maya really talks to Riley about what's going on, everything, and she needs to make a decision. And then we get to the ending of this episode, which is a supposed twist, but really isn't much of one. Let's just get into it. Because Riley tells Maya that she's going to go by the window to look at the sky, or I think to think, really, just about everything that's going on, and really think about what she really wants to do. But in this time, we get this really dumb twist that I really thought didn't amount to much of anything, where this guy comes up to Riley, his name is Evan, and apparently he's Lauren's son, which is an interesting twist, definitely. But he goes up to Riley, and they talk about the sky or whatever, and like what's going on, how the sky always changes at night and things like that. I thought it was an interesting conversation. I just didn't really know what they were trying to get at, because then the episode just ends. That's the end of the episode. That's really all we get here, and that's the end. So like I said, not a ton going on in this episode. I mean, a lot of it was them just talking and a lot of repetitive things we've heard before, dream sequences, things like that, things that were well executed. But did this really need to be part 1, part 2? No. In fact, I think this episode would have benefited a lot more had it been an hour-long episode, because we just didn't get to much in this episode. There really wasn't a ton of stuff going on here. But let's talk about it overall. let me just say right off the bat, I didn't dislike this episode. I didn't think this was a bad episode by any means. This was a fun episode, definitely. But it was a lot different than what I thought we were getting into. I thought we were getting into this thing where Riley, Maya, and Lucas are forced to talk about their feelings and everything that's going on, and it was a bit unrealistic, definitely. I thought especially everyone watching and everything was going on there, and them having these dream sequences, it did stall things out a bit, definitely. It was stalling things out. It really was an episode where it seemed like they really want to keep this going for a while, and I don't really know where we're headed here. Is Riley going to get close with this Evan guy? I don't really know. I hope he's not another Charlie, because Charlie, I'm glad he's gone. I'm glad we have not spoken about Charlie, because Charlie was annoying. I didn't like Charlie's character. And Evan, I don't know how to feel about him. I mean, it seems like he just is kind of just talking to Riley. Didn't really seem like he was... I just don't really know how to feel about them right now. I think it's kind of unnecessary to throw someone into the mixer when we're trying to deal with this love triangle and what's going on there. That, to me, just felt very unnecessary. I don't really know why he needed to be here. I don't really know what his whole thing was here, but it was kind of unnecessary what they did there. I did like seeing Josh in this episode. Thought that definitely was well done, but I really, like I said, think this episode would have benefited from being a 1 hour episode. I don't really know why we split this into 2 parts. I think it was definitely very unnecessary that they did do that. But that's really all I have to say. I don't have a ton to say about this episode, guys, really. I mean, besides the dream sequences, which were very well done and definitely very funny, this just wasn't much of an episode. It was a lot more of them just talking about repetitive things we've seen before. Not a bad episode, just I don't really know why this had to be a 2-part episode. I think it's a good start, but that's all this is, really. It's just a start. There really is not much to talk about here, and there's not much really to work with, but that's really all I have to say about this episode, to be honest with you guys. I don't really have much else to say. Like I said, you can watch this episode on YouTube in very bad quality. I don't really know what Lucas and Evan were, what Riley and Evan were talking about at the end. I will definitely say that. But other than that, I really did enjoy this episode. It was a lot of fun to watch. Just very different than what I thought it was going to get into. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Love your thoughts on it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for the series premiere Stranger Things, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.